Welcome, everyone. Happy Friday to you. It is the Film Threat Livecast, and you can tell by my hair that I pretty much just woke up. We have a lot of reviews today. We're going to be talking about Elvis, The Black Phone, Marcel, The Shell, and Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. Yes, Beavis and Butthead are back. Plus, interviews with filmmakers from The Green Ghost and The Masters of the Stone, plus Gatlopp. These are some indie movies that you should know about, and we'll be talking to the filmmakers behind those, and you can participate and post your questions. So let's get the chat on fire today. I'm excited. I'm nearly awake. I'll be joined. I'm going to be joined by Alan E. He's going to be here. So let's get started with our Friday Film Threat Livecast. It's on. I am Chris Gore from Film Thread. You are interested in movies. That's just what I'm going to guess. Happy to have you here on a Friday. Excited to talk to you all. Flaccid Phoenix is producing, modding. He's starring your comments as we speak. So post your comments in there. We'll get to your comments and questions. We have so many movies to talk about today. Let me bring Alan Ing on right now. Where are you, Alan? First of all, you missed the show on Wednesday. I'm bummed that you missed the show.
I was watching it. I was watching it. I was in the car, but I did miss it. There's just no way I could call in with the spotty internet I had along the way.
All right. Well, then before we get started, then give us your quick comments on Kenobi. You saw the finale. You probably watched the show.
Yeah, I'm just so glad it's over. I think I posted a comment. I just feel like, where has excellence in entertainment gone? You had this mega corporation Disney, and why? It just felt amateur hour. Everything about it was just, excellence. This is what George Lucas was all about. He was an innovator in technology, innovator in storytelling, and they just lost it across the board at Disney, Pixar, Lucasfilm, Marvel. No one wants to be excellent anymore, and that's my frustration with this whole thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. We're going to continue discussion of Star Wars on another live stream as we. Can I show you something I got? Can I show it? Okay. I'm going to show everybody. I want to show everybody something I got right here. It's a judge's gavel, which this judge's gavel is going to be used in a trial involving Star Wars. And are there forces that murdered the Star Wars franchise? We're going to get to the bottom of that. We are going to get to the bottom of it. So that'll be for a different stream that we'll be starting, and we'll let you know all about that. But I think we should really launch in today. A couple quick notes. Support us and buy something. You can go to shop.filmthreat.com. You can get this shirt that I have right here. We have shirts that appeal to everyone. We even have a rainbow shirt. Okay. We have all sorts of shirts, Fight Club inspired, Batman inspired. This one is free to be indie. It's coming up on the 4th of July. I thought this would be a great shirt to wear. You can grab yourself a mug. Go to shop.filmthreat.com. That helps us. And like and share this. We're one subscriber short of 44,000. We're trying to get to 50,000. So please help us. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. And as always, like, share, subscribe. And if you want some free stuff, I just got a whole bunch of envelopes right here. I got a stack of large envelopes. You can get this Film Threat bumper sticker along with other stuff. If you send me a bigger envelope, I'll send you some free DVDs, other free stuff. Just send it to Film Threat 5042 Wilshire Boulevard, PMB 1500, Los Angeles, California 90036. And free stuff. You get free stuff. It's as easy as that. So you know what to do. And then follow us at Film Threat on everything. I posted a video on Instagram today that I could not show you. I can't show you here, unfortunately, because of copyrighted music. But if you go to the Film Threat Instagram today, there is a very fun video starring Alan and I. So there you go. But let's get started, and because all these movies that we're talking about today, we might not even get to all of them because there are so many. But let's talk about Elvis. Elvis star. It's Baz Luhrmann's Elvis movie. It's part biopic, but it's also, I would say that the thing that sold this for me, Austin Butler, by the way, who plays Elvis in this,
Mhm.
also will be playing Fade Rotha in Dune Part 2, which I believe is called Dune 2 Prophet. Austin Butler plays Fade Rotha, and he's incredible. He's a lock to be nominated for Best Actor. A lock. I don't.
Mhm.
Alan's not even disagreeing with me.
I'm not disagreeing. I mean, I think that whole cast is going to get nominated. Tom Hanks and
I
Olivia
don't know about.
DeJonge, I think.
We'll talk about Tom.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Here's what it is. We were talking earlier about Elvis, and I was like, well, why now? Why are they making Elvis now? And I understand the two reasons why you would make an Elvis movie now. When I was packed crowd Thursday at the AMC Burbank 16, and I'm there, and it's like a lot of kids, and these are a lot of kids who, look, I was too young. Elvis died in August of 1977. I was too young to have ever seen him in concert, but this is for a generation that didn't get to experience the phenomenon that was Elvis the first time around, or have an opportunity to see him in concert live. And what's crazy about it is it's about that. It's sort of like what Baz Luhrmann has done, has recreated the concert experience. This is like seeing Elvis in concert, this movie. Secondly, the story of his life, he was breaking barriers constantly with things he was told, don't do this on stage, and he would just say, I'm gonna do it. This is what the audience wants. And I love that aspect. You saw him struggling with his own identity, like being able to express himself as an artist on stage. And that story is amazing. Also, the story with he and his wife, I thought was incredibly well told. And I have a flaw that
You found a flaw?
I found a flaw. It's 20 minutes too long, easily 20 minutes too long. And every time Tom Hanks is on the scene, he like sucks the air out of the whole thing. I wonder if that's kind of the point. I mean, he plays Colonel Tom Parker, with this guy. He wanted to be called the Colonel, and he micromanaged Elvis's career and kind of made him into this slave to do his whims and to pay off his gambling debts. And it was just horrific to see, like, what he did. And this has been well documented in books and whatnot, all about him. And it's about that struggle of the artist trying to struggle against forces, potentially a corporation, maybe, trying to control that artist. And that as a theme, I thought was really well played. I just think the movie could have been 20 minutes shorter. I know a guy who saw a 4-hour cut at a test screening that said that they cut some of the things they cut were like Elvis meeting Nixon, and which is historically really significant. So I'm disappointed. Hopefully there'll be a longer cut of this, but maybe cut down on Tom Hanks. I really just feel he didn't work. If his intention was to be is irritating to Elvis in the movie as irritating to the audience as he was to Elvis in the movie, Baz Luhrmann succeeded. But aside from that, put that aside, strongly recommend Elvis. This is a movie that must be seen in a theater. You cannot see this on like an HBO Max or whatever. Don't wait to see it on a streaming service. Just get to a theater and see this, and see it on the biggest screen, like an IMAX or a Dolby Digital, for the sound. It's just,
yes, sound is important. Sound is absolutely important.
Incredible. Alan, how does my review jibe with your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you for the most part. I'm very torn with this movie. It's funny that you mentioned someone saw a 4-hour cut, because the way that Baz Luhrmann paces this movie, it felt to me like he had a 4-hour movie and just cut out every boring moment in that 4-hour cut, and that's what this was. The movie just moves and moves from scene to scene, story to story, without a single transition. It feels like. There's no time to breathe. And I would say the first half of the movie felt like a long prologue to the life of Elvis. It just, I liken this to, I guess the best way I could say it is, this is a Baz Luhrmann movie. It screams Baz Luhrmann. from the way he shoots it, the way he edits it, the sound, the music, the way he incorporates the sound, the music. It's very lyrical as it goes through, and that kind of bothered me in the sense of I'm watching an Elvis movie, but I feel like I'm more watching a Baz Luhrmann movie, and so that said, I'm very torn because I as a kid, I was a fan of Elvis. I like Elvis. I like his music. I do like Baz Luhrmann's style. And I just feel like the mix. I don't feel like the movie's for everybody, and but I think it'll do well. Yeah. I mean, the best way I can say it is it started to bother me after a while, and then it started feeling very long. You mentioned it. They could cut 20 minutes. Yeah, and so I'm kind of giving it I'm glad I saw it, and I'm not necessarily looking forward to see it again. The other weird thing is my daughter and a bunch of her friends, they want to see this movie. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if they're going to like this one or not. I don't know if you have any thoughts about I don't know what it is, but young girls want to see this movie for some reason.
Well, look at the
It's
audience.
the gyrating. I understand. It's the gyrating. That's what
right. They want to see Austin Butler as Elvis. And apparently he's done interviews recently and he can't lose that accent. He was so in character when they were making the film that he's kind of still has that accent. But look, strong recommendation from me. Austin Butler, a lock for Best Actor nomination and actor nominations for other film awards events. And it's flawed. It's long, and that's to be expected. It's long, and but it recreates so many of his iconic concerts. That Christmas special. And the behind the scenes of some of that, which I'd heard about, are really interesting to see, like how it played out. Like, the Christmas special was supposed to be this wholesome event, but it's Elvis, so there's going to be stuff that's maybe not so wholesome. And they had I don't know, it was like Singer sewing machines were like the sponsor of the Christmas special. It's just so bizarre. But
to me, that was the best part of the movie. I really enjoyed that movie.
I thought that was funny. But let's get to your comments about it. Strong recommendation for me. It's a movie you're going to continue to hear about at the end of the year. I'm telling you, it's going to be up for all sorts of awards considerations, and Austin Butler will be attending the Oscars. I don't know who I can say this year necessarily that has where it's like that's a lock for Best Actor. Some decent performances, but this is 100% because it's the kind of thing that Hollywood likes. So holy hand grenades. I guess we're getting into spoilers here. Did they include his death? Yes, they do. They do include the not
his entire life.
It's his entire life. Not in graphic detail, but yes, his death. It's nearly birth to death. Hannibal Grimm says, I also agree with Alan. I stepped out for a smoke right at the final 20 minutes. That's great. Shelby AC, I feel like Baz Luhrmann directs movies, music videos. Does Elvis feel like that? Parts of it.
It does. It does. If you're a Baz Luhrmann fan, you're going to love this. It feels like a musical. If you're not into musicals, you may have problems with Elvis.
Fat Elvis says, no auto-tune required. Long live the king. Flaccid Phoenix. Chris Gore is fat suit shaming again. No, I'm not. I'm not. Fat Elvis says, Kurt Russell, Bruce Campbell, Elvis forever. Yes, Bubba Hotep is the movie you're referencing. Hannibal Grimm, I call it now. Butler is the second coming of Travolta.
Can he do action? That's going to be the next
Goober
one.
says, nothing beats Elvis and Bubba Hotep. Oh, yeah, Bruce Campbell. Insane. Kevin Rubio, Elvis died? Hey, I'm sorry, Kevin. It's a spoiler. August of 1977. I remember because that was the summer of Star Wars. I'm sure you remember.
No, I believe they do leave it open to where he may not be dead.
Yeah, Elvis, they're leaving it open to a sequel and an Elvis connected universe because that's what every studio is buying these days. Akanika, waiting for this review before taking my time to see it. I recommend seeing it. Just know it's going to be long. So I think I took 2 bathroom breaks. So there you go. Chris Allen, the paranoia scene. And we hit 44K. Thank you for that. For those who have not subscribed, and more people keep coming in, smash that like button so this video gets recommended. We appreciate that. TGIF, Chris and Alan says, Fat Elvis, glad to have you here. Goldstone, is it you singing the Film Threat theme song? No, it's actually It's someone I hired on Fiverr. Believe it or not, go to Fiverr with 2Rs.com. You can hire people for creative services, including music, which is great. Cardinal Sin for $9.99 with a super sticker. Thank you, Cardinal Sin, for all your support.
Thank you.
I want to do a special stream where Cardinal Sin sent me a box of old issues of films, including issues I don't have, and I'm going to sign them. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a live stream where I sign them and then talk about each issue. So, and Goldstone says, love this channel. So there you go. Love it. Love it with the comments. Ing is back.
Yes.
Says, yeah. Well, Alan is going to start. Apparently, Alan is going to start his own show on this channel called Shock Ing. And it's going to be.
And my three fans will join me.
Well, yeah. You'll have more than 3 fans, Alan. Come on. It'll be fun. So, all right. Well, let's get to our next review here. I think we're going to talk a little Beavis and Butthead. Let's do that. Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. It's here. First of all, I didn't know this was coming out until a couple weeks ago. They dropped.
I didn't know
about
it until you mentioned it yesterday.
So they just dropped the trailer a couple weeks ago, and then it's on Paramount Plus, and it's exclusively on Paramount Plus. But let me just say, I'm a fan of Beavis and Butthead. I grew up watching Beavis and Butthead on MTV. Watching Beavis and Butthead. Beavis and Butthead did reaction videos before reaction videos were a thing. So if you know anything about the old MTV show, it was Beavis and Butthead basically watching music videos and then making fun of them. They were effectively doing reaction videos. And that was the way to kind of suffer through. I was not like a fan of a lot of the mainstream music that was on MTV. I preferred some more of the late night shows, alternative or like new wave music and whatnot, punk rock kind of stuff. And that was occasionally made it on the channel. And then the channel was dominated by like things like, Aha or whatever, just like the stuff that was just more pop culture, mainstream, whatever. So fine. But Beavis and Butthead, which came from a short film that Mike Judge made called, I believe it was called Frog Baseball.
Yeah.
Where they're basically taking frogs and using them as balls in a game of baseball. And it was a little short film he made, and it screened on a late night show, I believe it was on Sunday nights, called Liquid Television. And Liquid Television was just, it was like a short film program at a festival. It was just a series of short animated shorts. And that's where Mike Judge, he got, offered like, hey, do you want to do this as a regular show? He just did an interview on Rogan where he talks about this. I mean, I knew a little bit about this before, but his Rogan interview is really good. And obviously timed to this movie coming out. And then, of course, Beavis and Butthead Do America, I believe, came out in the late 90s. Mm-hmm. Was it 97? Somewhere around then. And it was, it's a dumb road comedy, almost like the plot of an indie movie. And let's get into Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. It's on Paramount Plus. First of all, I haven't watched anything Beavis and Butthead in probably over a decade, more than that. It's great to see the sense of humor back. Nothing's changed. It's as if they just made this movie in the 90s. Now, what's weird is it starts in the 90s and they get teleported to the present day, which is hysterical. We'll get into that. Not too many story spoilers. I'm not sure if story spoilers really matter with this movie all that much. But what's great is it's Beavis and Butthead, just completely commenting on everything in the culture. And they're just as they were preserved, like horny teenagers. They just want to score. Both of them just want to score. And it's, first of all, why was this movie not released in theaters? It's much more entertaining to me than Bob's Burgers. And maybe it's because I wasn't a fan of Bob's Burgers before I saw the movie, but I gave it a positive review. I thought it was entertaining. This is just, oh my God, so what happens is basically Beavis and Butthead get sentenced to go to space camp where they're basically working on this rocket where they're having a rocket go in and out of a silo, in and out. And the people at the camp recognize like, oh my God, these teenagers, they're geniuses. Of course, they're doing it because they're just horny teenagers reenacting sex acts with a space capsule. And then they say, well, you should come on this mission with us. They're blown into a black hole. where they come into present day, and the people on the space shuttle think that they've murdered this woman on the space shuttle. What's her name? Is it
Serena?
Serena. Yeah, she thinks she's murdered them, and it's like, we're just going to keep this quiet. She ends up becoming the governor of Texas in the present day, 2022 America. They land in 2022 America just out of this black hole, and of course they're just horny and stupid as ever, and end up being chased by the FBI, by Serena and her lieutenant governor, which is hilarious. And they just experience present day culture. They get a phone, which they mistake as a television, and they just use the phone once they find out how to, use it to pay for things. They just order nachos. The whole time they're just ordering nachos and eating nachos, making a mess of everything. And then to me, what I thought was one of the best scenes in the movie, commenting on present day culture, they walk through a college and they go to a gender studies course. And it is so hysterical because it's making fun of all this woke nonsense. This is really what studios, if you're going to make a comedy right now, just make fun of woke shit, because I feel like that just is going to resonate, because it needs to be mocked. And in one of the best scenes, you see like there's this professor, she's talking to them, and then the idea of white privilege comes up because they're two white kids. And then what's great is this black student starts to explain it, and then this guy who's totally a male feminist, he's got like the hair and like beads, and he's dressed like that, and he says, "No, excuse me." He interrupts the black girl and then starts to explain it, and then like, "Look what I did such a good thing," explaining white privilege as a white guy, interrupting it just mocked. That whole scene was probably one of the best scenes in the movie. Then as soon as they find out they have white privilege, they just start acting like assholes, like, which is what they normally would do, like cutting in the front of the line. "Oh, I got white privilege. I'm just going to use my white privilege." Like I love it. And I kind of feel like this is ripe for comedy, because I think I do believe that there's sort of look, we're sick of this woke stuff. It's just like, look, stop being entitled babies and just, stop creating problems where none exist. Which is, to me, a lot of this nonsense, if you ask me. So, and some of it is rooted in genuine good things. Let's be fair. And having said that, a lot of it is just being used for power grabs and bullshit, in my opinion. So it's ripe for mocking. So my biggest complaint is, why is this not in the theater? Why is this not? I feel like this could have done so well. Maybe it's even counter programming to Lightyear, right? Like, there's nothing woke about it. It makes fun of wokeness, and it's in all the best ways, because it does what great satire does. It skewers the culture. It makes fun of everything. So
Yeah,
I loved it. Alan, what did you think?
Yeah, I'll tell you why it's not in the theaters. The biggest thing is marketing. And, if you're going to go to the theaters, you have to promote it. And literally, I didn't know this movie existed until you mentioned it yesterday.
Right.
That's how much promotion Paramount has done. But the thing is, I think that in a way it could be a smart move, in the sense of, I think this movie will succeed because of word of mouth, because people will start talking about it. And, I think you can't buy free publicity. That's basically how that goes. Well, and I think it'll do that. I think it'll do well. I think it'll catch on, maybe not today, but over the months, I think it'll catch on.
Well, for sure. But then how do you measure it? I mean, that's at least the box office. Mm-hmm. You can say, okay, Lightyear failed, right? Lightyear failed, and audiences rejected. I think part of that is the bad reputation that Disney has deservedly earned, mm-hmm. right? But we can't really have any gauge of how well it did. So let's go to the comments, because it sounds like a lot of people did see it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Dr. Death, my biggest complaint for Beavis and Butthead was the lack of new original music for a soundtrack. Oh, yeah, that's probably money, budget. Hannibal Grimm, I got bored halfway through Bob's Burgers, wandered out of the screening room, have yet to return. Dr. Death, the white privilege bit was genius.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Aaron Rosenfeld, the movie was way better than I expected it to be. Hannibal Grimm, I can't do it.
When that white guy was mansplaining white privilege, the thing I loved about it was the fact that not only did he interrupt her, but then he got in her space and blocked her camera shot.
That was so good. Like, that bit alone, they should be leaking bits online.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it a fear that they're afraid there'll be some woke backlash? It's like, no, You got to have a sense of humor.
Yeah, I mean, I want to feel like maybe we're heading in that direction finally, where we can start poking fun at wokeness, and I think to me that I've seen a few movies that have attempted to do that, and I've always given them bonus points for that. Just tell a joke that is gonna just irk people off, just and just be bold about it. Just do it and don't apologize for it.
Yeah. Goober says Office Space and Idiocracy, some of the best comedies ever. Aaron Rosenfeld, Beavis and Butthead interacting with a smartphone is comedy gold. Yeah, that was great. But it's so great that they were able to bring them. They literally plucked them from the 90s, brought them to present day, and now they're in present day. They have to do a follow-up.
And they haven't changed.
Yeah.
How the world has changed. That's the best part about this movie.
Yeah, we need Beavis and Butthead more than ever. Fat Elvis says, Beavis, we're gonna score. Todd Packer is back. Oh, it's an amazing show. Very funny. Solomon Thornton, Mike Judge also made Office Space. Freaking funny. Office Space, which holds up today. Shelby AC, I loved Liquid Television. So creative. Yes, Ian Flux came from Liquid Television. Which is I saw Frog Baseball at Spike and Mike's Sick and Twisted. Wow. I remember it was part of that. Shelby AC. I didn't know this was happening, but I really like Mike Judge. He seems cool. Hannibal Grimm, Beavis and Butthead, The Head and Flux and The Max all came from Liquid Television. Hannibal Grimm. That was great. And Derek Douglas asks, is there a guest today? Absolutely. We have two guests today. The filmmakers behind Gatlopp and what's the other one? Is a long title.
Green
Ghost and the Masters of the Stone. So we had two guests coming up starting at 10 a.m. in the next 30 minutes. But thank you for all. Look, here's what I'll say. I love this. We kind of need them more than ever, Beavis and Butthead. And I think this movie it's the right kind of social commentary now that we need now. We need like someone like a Mike Judge to point out like, hey, a lot of this stuff in college, it's pretty stupid. It's really stupid. And that, oh my God, that white guy thing where the white dude kind of like goes in front of her and then like, starts to explain white privilege in front of the black girl. Oh my God, it was just so, and then when they became like these, and you see just the way that the women were drawn in college was so much like it's such a cliche. It just got all those things right. So do not miss this.
What I appreciate about Mike Judge is he is so smart about this stupid humor that he's portraying with Beavis and Butthead. It's not stupid for the sake of being stupid, but he's got something behind it that's just really twisting that knife into people.
And I'm surprised that comedy writers, comedians are not leaning into this more. You'll see it little by little, but I feel like you have to be fearless with this stuff. You just have to not care. You have to not care, and just go for it. All right, so
watch the I want to say Norm Macdonald comedy special that just came out on Netflix. It is hilarious and it's quite touching too at the end as well. And he does the same thing.
We'll talk about it on our Wednesday show next week. Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I'm dying to see it.
Oh, you got to see it.
Okay, switching gears here. Marcel the Shell. Wait, it's Marcel the Shell with shoes on. Isn't that the
Marcel the Shell with his shoes on.
Okay. All right, but let's get into this. It's an A24 stop motion animated movie about a shell that is alive and thinking, and this cute little shell, and it lives this existence in this house where a couple lived, and this couple used to argue all the time. And then they left and the place became an Airbnb. And this documentary filmmaker moves in and discovers this little alive shell with his grandmother who's in ill health. And he begins to document Marcel the Shell, just interviewing the shell, like his daily life. What does he do? Well, here's how he gets the fruit from the tree is he connects a rope to the blender and then turns on the blender. He rides around in this he sort of goes inside of a tennis ball and rolls around, and it's just his sort of mundane daily life, but it's so fascinating. The animation is done in a really cool style where it's stop motion animated, but it's in this sort of real environment. You can tell it's shot with XLR cameras, and it looks.
Yeah.
It looks. And it feels like part of it feels like a foreign film a little bit. But what happens is, what happens in it, and I'm gonna just tell about the first half of the story. Most of this is in the trailer. Is that Marcel is interviewed by this doc filmmaker who uploads the videos, and then he becomes like this internet sensation. Like he's doing these videos that get like 10 million views to the point where people are coming to the house to take pictures of the Marcel the Shell house. He becomes like this internet celebrity. Come to find out that it's like he's lonely because he just wants to find his family. And he ends up getting interviewed by 60 Minutes, which makes him, of course, he's a little cautious about, which makes him even more famous. And this fame, he hopes, will lead to helping him find his family. It's delightful. It's fun. It's there. I can't tell you how many times the audience I was with went, "Oh," so so it's very cute, and it's also very existential. There's something about it that feels kind of weird. Like the character, the Marcel's voice is done by Jenny Slate, and I've always loved her as an actress. She stars in a lot of indie comedies, a lot of small indie comedies, and she's great as this character. It's weird to like have like so many movies on the show where we like all of them. This is going to be one of those rare instances because I know we're gonna talk about The Black Phone, and everyone already knows that I like that one. But Marcel the Shell is just such a great, and this is the movie. Also, I'm trying to think. There's actually nothing really in it that it's. I will say this: this is not a movie made for kids, but it's a movie kids would enjoy. It's also
absolutely
under 90 minutes, right? Unlike Lightyear, which little, it's close to 2 hours. So it's under 90 minutes. It's also a movie adults will not be bored at. It's the kind of movie Pixar might have made years ago. I think they're incapable of making a movie, but like this, I didn't think about it this way until just because I saw it with an audience of all adults, but I'm thinking like, holy crap, like kids will love this movie. Kids will love this movie because it's such a simple message, but also there's something about it, like about our current culture and narcissism and internet culture and, getting likes and views that is, it's just sort of beneath the surface. It's not a huge part, but it's there. But cannot recommend this movie. And what's interesting is this came from a series of videos that were actually uploaded to YouTube in 2010. So these original videos were done in 2010 and just took off. And then now you've got 12 years later, the movie. I loved it. Strongly recommend it. Whether you see it on streaming, I'm sure it'll be coming to streaming soon, but it's in theaters this weekend. Alan, what were your thoughts on Marcel the Shell?
Yeah, this movie is too damn cute for its own good. It's weird that we talk about it. Like we just talked about Beavis and Butthead, where we liked it because it was poking fun at the current times. This one, I think, will have the same criticism in the sense that it's overly positive. I mean, it's got a great message, and it's not sappy positive either. It's just positive in nature. The thing that makes Marcel so endearing is the fact that he is probably in your early teens, age-wise, maybe a little bit lower than that, and he speaks his mind. He suffers no fools. He sees the world at such an optimistic level, and even after the fact that his family had been taken away because the couple moved out, and they were, him and his grandmother were left behind, and just the interactions with the documentarian, why he wonders why he constantly has a camera on him and why he constantly wants him to talk, and then all the interaction with his grandmother, who's played by Isabella Rossellini, is priceless, and I'll admit it, I teared up at the very end, and it's not the scene you think it is either. And so again, this is just a movie of positivity. It's funny. You're gonna, this is just a movie that's a breath of fresh air, from the current crop of movies we get. You mentioned Lightyear. Yeah, this is way better than Lightyear.
It's way better than Lightyear. It's like just positive message. It's like having a positive attitude, in light of the world or your circumstances, whatever they are. And Marcel the Shell just sort of goes with the flow of everything in life. And it's
I was gonna say, what's interesting about it is his world is this Airbnb. The world that he knows exists in this little building and a little bit outside of it. And then when he's taken out in a car to experience the rest of the world, that's just, again, eye-opening. It just, brilliant commentary from Jenny Slate.
I would say it's also somewhat existential, right? It makes you think about your
absolutely
life and how you approach problems. And Marcel the Shell just approaches problems with this positivity of, I'll figure it out. And like, he's this little tiny 1 inch tall shell. So how does he get from the table to this? And just figure it out. Just go and move and go over here. And this is what I do. And it's like this just sort of positive on his circumstances. And it just, I don't know. So it just makes you think about, like, maybe we should just look at problems like a puzzle. It's just something to solve. And that's the way Marcel looks at everything. It's just like this little, I'm going to solve this puzzle effectively. Like the weird way that he shakes the fruit from the tree or just any sort of problem, little problem, or just dealing with a dog. And just like, I don't know. I really loved it. It's super positive movie. Let's get to some quick comments. See if people comments about this. Toxic Waltz N8. I can't see Marcel where I live, where I'm because Top Gun and Jurassic World are taking up too many screens. I actually believe that Marcel the Shell is only currently in New York and Los Angeles, but will be opening wider. So there you go. Flaccid Phoenix says Chris's Marcel voice is unsettling. You mean this voice, the Marcel the Shell voice? Kind of unsettling. Goober says when he sells out for the sequel, he can be Marcel the Shill, says Goober. Oh, that's great. Hail Film Threat, always great reviews, says Sarcasticus. Thank you for that. Hey, it's another A24 movie, says Patrick Lemire. I will say this. I like A24 from the standpoint of their taste is very eclectic. They don't choose normal mainstream, whatever it is. If it's a movie like X, which is a horror film, set in the 70s, they just have really great eclectic taste. I mean, I think a lot of it is it's basically your low budget Warner Brothers brand, right? I mean, A24 is a division of Warner Brothers, but I don't know, they've got really good taste. When you see that A24 logo, they did Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is arguably the better multiverse movie.
It is the better multiverse movie.
It is the better multiverse. If you're going for multiverse movies, and in a way, actually, Beavis and Butthead is kind of a multiverse movie now that I think about it. There's a multiverse.
I think it's more time travel.
Well, time travel, but also multiverse, because there are other versions. There's Smart Beavis and Smart Butthead, which is
the Watcher Beavis and Watcher Butthead.
Yeah, Rotten Tanuki says, "Oh my God, I just saw the trailer for Marcel. Thank you for the recommendation. The movie is fantastic. And also in the theater, we get so distracted. I am guilty of this. Watching a movie at home, and I'm like, it's slow. What's going on Instagram? I know, I've done it. Have any of you?
My phone just went off.
Yeah, my phone just went off. Well, I guess I'll check it, while I'm watching this movie. And I know if a movie does that, it's not holding my attention. And that's actually what I prefer about the theatrical experiences. It's going to hold my attention. So Rotten Tanuki, happy to help here. Solomon Thornton, A24 is stepping up their game. Would you consider them a no woke company? When you look at the stuff that they put out, I mean, but also I don't think that their stuff is necessarily woke. It's just refreshing. It's just not what the mainstream is putting out. So it's hard to tell. I think some of their stuff could be categorized like that, but I don't know.
See, I categorize woke versus liberalism as intention. I think woke companies intentionally try to force a message down your throat versus a liberal filmmaker who just makes a movie about something they believe in and are passionate about.
Oh, sweet. Here we go. Andrew Eterno says, "Oh, sweet. I was hoping Marcel the Show would be good. It's not playing in my city, but it will be. It's going to open wider."
Yeah.
So there you go.
I think it'll do really well. I think it'll do really well in LA and New York, and I think that'll get an international release.
Well, it's again, they're not selling it like a movie for kids, which it's not. It's, I mean, yes, it's a movie that like I think it works on both levels. You could take a kid to this, they're going to like it probably better than Lightyear, because Lightyear, just the aspects of it seem very cliche. Patrick Lemire, A24 reminds me of 4AD records except film. First of all, Patrick Lemire, great, because I remember 4AD records. Used to buy those in the 80s and 90s, and mostly on cassette because I could listen in my car. So there you go. And Solomon Thornton says, you already sold me on stop motion animation. Remember the old school Thunderbird show? Yes, I do. Of course I remember that show. So
yeah, I think
there you go.
the animation is very much like Robot Chicken, but with live people in it.
Well, and Spidey Sensei 72 says, did they already talk about the black phone or not? Your timing could not be better, because now we are about to talk about the black phone, which we talked about last week because I personally loved it so much. So let's get into it. Let's get the correct banner here. The black phone. I'm over the top positive about this film because it affected me on such a personal level. I mentioned in another video that's on our channel that there was a child killer, the Oakland County child killer, that terrorized the Detroit suburbs back in the 70s. And I was the same age as one of the kids that was abducted literally blocks from where I lived as a kid in Royal Oak, Michigan. This kid was from Berkeley, Michigan. His name was Timothy King. I remember seeing photos of him in the newspaper, and it just shook me as a kid. Had nightmares about these kids would get abducted and they'd disappear, and there'd be a search for them. And a week or two later, their body would be found in a ditch. And I remember one detail about it was that Timothy King had eaten a banquet chicken pot pie dinner as his last meal when they did the autopsy. It frightened me. This movie, The Black Phone, is about a child, a person who abducts children and murders them, played by Ethan Hawke, the killer. He uses this method of, oh my God, it's so frightening because it's rooted in such a reality of the time, right? It's so like sort of mid to late 70s. It's a boy and a young boy and his sister. His sister kind of maybe has like these psychic abilities, maybe not. Their abusive father, played by Jeremy Davies, wants her to suppress that. Please, you got to suppress all that. Don't use your these abilities. And of course, this boy is abducted, and all these other kids who you get to know are abducted, and their bodies turn up. And actually, I don't want to spoil it. Actually, their bodies don't turn up in the middle, at least. I don't want to say anything.
Yeah, just forget he said it.
These kids disappear and they can't find them. So it brought back all these memories of that. And the way that the story is told with such a humanity. This is the best cast of young child actors since, I would say, something like Dazed and Confused, where it's like all fresh faces, kids you haven't seen before in these roles where they're so powerful. They're not acting like you would in some Disney Channel show. They act like real kids with real problems. Most of it, centering around bullying and whatnot. And it's absolutely frightening for a couple reasons. One, the sort of rooted in reality aspect of it, the use of sound in the sound design, and the absence of sound in music. So there'll be parts where there's just no music, none. And then there's a great needle drop of Pink Floyd that might be, that was an album, Dark Side of the Moon, that I listened to just endlessly as a kid. Dark Side of the Moon was a Pink Floyd album I listened to, and it's sort of a cut like in the mid. You wouldn't necessarily recognize it as a song. It's like a piece of sound, so well used. Scott Derrickson, who directed this, was originally set to do Doctor Strange 2. He dodged a bullet by not directing Doctor Strange 2. And the rumor is also that Sam Raimi was actually fired from Doctor Strange 2, but got to stick around on the set while someone else, finished the movie for him. I'm not a fan of the way Disney and Marvel and that company treats talent. Look at the way Lucasfilm has treated talent, Disney, Marvel. This movie, The Black Phone, feels like an indie movie. It's a Blumhouse film, actually. So Blumhouse, Universal, sometimes I get these corporations mixed up. I'm not as hip to all the business machinations behind the scenes, but it's the best horror film I've seen this year. And I think that the best horror is rooted in some reality. I mean, there is, you have to suspend your little disbelief where there's this phone that's in this basement where he's being held, and he picks up the phone. He can hear from the dead children that were there before him in the same room, which they're giving him clues on how he might be able to escape, trying to help him. Each child kind of made a little bit of progress. It's incredible. The audience I saw it with, you literally could hear a pin drop. And then also, by the way, there was a young boy and his mother. They walked out of the screening about halfway.
Yeah.
They could not take it. I'm over the moon positive about this. It was also co-written by C. Robert Cargill, who was a former writer at Ain't It Cool News. So he's a film journalist. So I always love when someone who's a film journalist crosses over into filmmaking. So congrats to C. Robert Cargill, who's written a lot of great stuff. But in co-writing this with Scott Derrickson, just knocked it out of the park. It's also based on a short story, and I forget the author. Maybe someone in the chat can help me out with that one. But Alan, what did you think of The Black Phone?
Yeah, I am not a big fan of horror films, and I will say the horror films that I do like are the smart ones, the ones that have, it's there's more to the story than just the scary things going on, and this one reminds me a lot of what I loved about the old Twilight Zone and the old Alfred Hitchcock television series, and it felt very much like that these kids who call him on the phone in the past, they drop him subtle clues, and it becomes, in a way, I wouldn't call it a Rube Goldberg type of ending, but there's definitely elements of that in that. And to me, I like a horror film that makes me think, that makes me wonder what's going to happen. How is this going to fit in? And then to your point about the acting, there are two moments when both the lead actors, the kids, they cry. And if you've ever raised kids, if you ever had kids or been around kids, these cries were real. I mean, it was authentic. It wasn't a movie cry. It was a cry at that moment in this context. And it, to me, it was like, oh my God, these kids are amazing. And again, what you said about the cast, they acted their age. And I always appreciate directors who know how to have kids act their age, or at least the age of their characters. And I also love the fact that it was set in the late 70s. Because there's so many good elements about that plays into this.
So good. Anyways, yes, I know the reviews are over the top positive about it, and they are correct.
Absolutely.
Because this is not a typical horror film with all the sort of checkbox cliches. This is something wholly told in a new way, and it's truly frightening. As you said, like I actually like horror films, but I like horror films that work on a more psychological level, because this is a movie that you'll be thinking and talking about long after you see it, and I can't wait to see it again. Let's get through your comments.
And I will say, let me just make one. There are jump scares. They're jump scares, but they actually are part of the story and not there just to make you jump.
They're not cheap, like, oh my God, a cat. It's just a cat. Like, cheap jump scares I hate. A lot of horror films do that. It's cheap. There are no cheap scares in this. Everything about this is just frightening because it's real and could happen. Here you go. Lydia Filippone says, is this movie as great as the reviews say? 100%. 100%. But know what you're getting into. Secret Squirrel 726. How can you see a black phone in a dark room? Well, you can. Patrick Lemire says, why was the Michigan serial killer called Oakland? It was the Oakland County child killer because all the killings took place in Oakland County, which is a region of Michigan. So Oakland County child killer. And you should Google that if you want to read about the real story. They think that it was a cold case that they think they've solved after the fact. And it's haunting. You talk to anyone who grew up during that time, everybody knew the Oakland County child killer. So there you go. CD Stein 69 for $4.99. Seems like Blumhouse and A24, even though owned by large companies, are run like great indie studios. Disney and Warner should take note. Well, Warner actually owns A24, so that's solid. And Blumhouse, I
Yeah.
believe, is Universal. So these, but see,
No,
it's
actually, I can explain Blumhouse.
Yeah.
Blumhouse is separate from Universal, but Universal has first rights to distribute a film that they put out.
Yeah, so the way it works with these smaller companies is that they're funded by the studios, but they are by design left alone. So they're left alone so they can, like, they're not micromanaged by the studios, and they cost some. These movies do not cost. I can't believe that the Black Phone costs more than it didn't cost $50 million. Let's say that, probably along the lines of like 10 or 20 million, but that's a low budget movie for a studio, and it's worth the investment. You can make 10 Black Phones for the cost of one Lightyear, right? Same thing with Marcel the Shell. So, and they're run differently. These are separate studios, so it's different management, different corporate culture, probably very anti-corporate more than anything. And the studios realize that, look, if we can just sort of creatively let them do their thing, we're going to have like 1 out of 5 movies is going to be a home run, and it's worth it. So there you go. And yes, Hank VP, Chris is drinking out of Batman's head. What sorcery is this? Yeah, I love my Batman. It even has the ears. So, but get yourself a Film Threat mug before you get the Batman mug. There you go. Mike, okay, Patrick Lemire, my greatest fear is my son being harmed. Patrick Lemire.
Yeah.
When my kids were little, that was like, I don't fear death. I don't fear anything. I fear anything harm coming to my child. It is every parent's worst nightmare. I don't even, like, if anything happened to my kids, I don't know how I would go on living or caring much about anything in life. So Patrick, I completely understand your comment there. And that's why I don't recommend, Patrick has another comment here. I have a 14-year-old son, Black Phone might be super traumatic. Yes. Do not take your 14-year-old son. I think he's probably the same age as the kid in the movie. I would recommend, Patrick, I think, like, my daughter loved horror films as a kid. She saw Alien at an age and just fell in love with everything H.R. Giger. She went down this path of uncovering his art. My daughter's an artist. And so I think you have to know, and my son is completely different, does not like horror films, doesn't care, doesn't want to see him, doesn't like them. So I kind of have to gauge your own taste. 14, it will be traumatic. You know what? I'd say 50-50 on that. I'd say see it first.
Yeah. I think the kid is maybe a freshman or sophomore in high school.
So he's around 14. Yeah.
And the other thing is, in the 70s, we didn't have phones to be able to track our kids. And so I remember thinking back at that time, I was just running free on the streets when I was that kid's age, even younger than that.
Yeah. And, remember that era? You'd go, like, literally my mom would yell out, dinner, Chris, dinner. Like, and it just, like, I'd hear, because I would be, like, within a block of, I'd be at the park or whatever. Oh, is my mom yell? And she'd come over and yell at the park. This is when you had screen doors. You didn't lock your doors. Nobody, you know what I mean? It's like, it was such a different era. And now maybe we've kind of overcorrected by overprotecting kids when part of that, like, but I feel like I'm the last generation of, I never wore a helmet riding my bike ever. Never wore a helmet, not once. And I skinned my knee. You know what? It hurt. I got up. I walked it off.
Yeah. So, I remember I would, in junior high, I would just walk out the house, walk to the movie theater, watch a film, not tell anybody where I was, and then just come home.
Yeah. I used to go to this theater called the Berkeley Theater. It was $1. It was 3 blocks from my house. I walked to the movie theater as a kid, paid $1, and I saw The Empire Strikes Back for the 7th time. And I walked, and then I walked home. I was out. Kind of, you knew you had to go home. It's like, oh, it's getting dark. We should go home. But I stayed out past dark. Whatever. Derek Douglas says Ethan Hawke is good. 100%. Spidey Sensei says it's 11. Do you know where your kids are? Yes. And not my not the Batman says that's not my head. Kind of looks like your head. Looks like your head a little bit.
Except the eyes.
Kung Fu Hot Dog for £5 says, first time super chat from the UK. Chris, will your G4 doc be available to buy on Blu-ray? Watching your Fab Fantastic Four doc as well. Be well, gents. Well, it's not my Fantastic Four documentary. It's but I am in that doc. I counted at last count. I'm in like 16, 17 docs, including a couple that haven't come out yet. But the G4 doc, which I am directing, will be out We're looking at a fall to early 2023 release on Blu-ray. What I'll try to do is do a region-free version so you can get it. There you go. It'll also be available on digital. So yeah, in fact, we're doing a screening of it on Thursday, July 21st at 7 p.m. during San Diego Comic-Con at a theater within the vicinity of San Diego Comic-Con. And that secret will be revealed in the next few weeks, how you can get tickets. Thank you, Kung Fu Hot Dog, for your support. We're going to be screening the doc there because we're getting close to picture cut. We want to watch it with an audience so we can see kind of like where to make trims and cuts. Flaccid Phoenix says, I grew up in the early 2000s. Parents didn't care. My brother and I doing stuff in the neighborhood because they knew no one wanted us. Well, I grew up during that time. We played games. We played tag. We played a version of tag where it's like, if you get tagged, then you're a vampire. It was like vampires. So it's like you had to basically the whole game was like, it was like last person standing who wasn't tagged and you would become a vampire. We did we played Night of the Living Dead. It was weird. I used to have a Super 8 projector and the kids would come over from the neighborhood and I would project Super 8 movies on the side of my garage. We'd all eat popcorn outside during the summer. And I had a full length print, Super 8 print of Night of the Living Dead. It was on 2 reels. And we would just watch movies in my backyard. I built a movie theater in my basement by cutting a hole through the laundry chute. So the loud clackety projector was in the laundry chute. And then I cut this hole and then you'd watch the movies. We'd watch I used to go to this place called Thomas Film Classics in Michigan to buy Super 8 movies. Yes, a lot of detail on that. Dempsey asks, what shirt is Alan wearing?
It's just a Jurassic Park shirt.
Oh, there you go. Jurassic Park or World?
Jurassic Park.
Okay, there you go.
The original, yeah. The better of the films.
Spidey Sensei 72. Alan is like the 4th reviewer I've heard mention this kid's crying scene. Must be pretty creepy or something. Here's why.
It's not creepy. It's not creepy. It's authentic. That's the point I'm making.
Yeah, 100%. It's so authentic. You're like, oh, that's not acting. That's a kid crying. So yes. I have been informed by Flaccid Phoenix that the short story is by Joe Hill that the Black Phone is based on. And I can't imagine what that story is like.
Sounds like a pseudonym to me.
Yeah.
Joe Hill.
Womp Biscuits says, my wife was a school teacher and gets the creeps every time she hears an ice cream truck drive by. Yeah, it's interesting. You'll see in the Black Phone how this killer played by Ethan Hawke, that's not a spoiler, how he's able to capture these children in a weird way. Like I thought it was like, oh, that's frightening. And Goober says Joe Hill is Stephen King's son. Yeah, well, that's what I knew. Stephen King tweeted about this. He posted about that he's proud of his son's short story. So there you go. Celluloid Therapy says, like father, like son, Joe Hill with children being harmed. Interesting indeed. Yeah, it's God, man, this movie, it's just like one of those where like I walked out of the theater and I kind of needed a minute, you know what I mean? And you could tell this pack screening I was at, which they just showed it like you have to get, if you have the AMC A-List app, like they have this thing they call investor screenings, which basically you can see a movie a week or more like before they open, sometimes a few days before they open. Yeah. And so that's how I was able to get a ticket and see it. And
I think we saw it last Wednesday, a week from last Wednesday.
So everyone walked out of the screening and you could tell like the whole audience was kind of traumatized. You know, it felt weird. It felt really, really creepy.
Although
and weird.
I did like the epilogue. I will say zero about the epilogue other than I liked it. I liked how it played out at the end. You know,
Yeah. So really great film. Strongly recommend. Okay, I don't know that we're ever going to do a show again where we review 4 movies in a row and they're all positive. And now it's all like, look, you can take my positive review of saying of the Black Phone and you could say to yourself, hey, it's not a movie for me. It's not for me. That's totally fine. That is totally fine. It's like Marcel the Shell, same thing. I think it's a better movie for kids than Lightyear. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, I think Elvis won't be for everybody. I think there'll be people who don't really care
Right,
for
it's-
that kind of film.
Look, I'm positive if this is the kind of movie you like, positive, and I recommend, I recommend going if you're in the mood to see a movie this weekend. You've got 4 options. Maybe Marcel the Shell you don't. Real quick comments before our special guest joins us very shortly. Alan came out smiling as usual. Well, there you go. Well, and you know what?
Yeah.
Just for that, you know what we're gonna do? Just for that, let's just do that.
I know what we're getting.
Alan, you're a Star Wars fan. You know what? I love Star Wars. Here's how much I love Star Wars. Well, okay, I'll give it a try. Oh, no. It's great. That was me at Galaxy's Edge when it opened. And
Is that milk a little overhyped or?
It doesn't taste great. It tastes like sort of like a rice kind of thing. And real quick, thank you, Lydia Filippone, and I'm sure I pronounced that incorrectly. Please, for $3 a super sticker. Thank you for supporting the channel. We love that. So let's get to our special guest here. This is a movie that has so much heart, filled with so much love, and you want to buy the marketing. You think, well, this is a superhero movie. And it's not a traditional superhero film. It involves Mexican wrestling and legends and myths. And it has Danny Trejo and creates this whole alternate history of the universe that is incredibly imaginative. And I'm watching some of the special effects in this my mind is kind of blown that we've gotten to the point where an indie movie can do effects that are, on a level of like a Marvel film. But Green Ghost and the Masters of the Stone is just a flat out fun indie action movie that is filled with heart. And I am ecstatic today to have the creator, star, and screenwriter Charlie Clark here to join us to talk about Green Ghost and the Masters of the Stone. Charlie, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I got to say, where did this concept come from, this idea, and for this movie? And I recommend, not right now, but everyone in the chat, we've got almost 150 people watching us right now. Get your questions ready for Charlie and look up the trailer for this film, which is phenomenal, so much fun, filled with heart. Charlie, where did the idea for this come from?
Well, it first started back when I started in business as an entrepreneur, and with my first small car dealership, actually. I wanted to come up with an alter ego because I grew up watching Mexican shows, because I was fortunate enough to be able to live about half my life with my actual Mexican nanny, and then the other half with my gringo family. So I speak fluent Spanish, and I'm proudly speak fluent Spanish. And I wanted to come up with an alter ego for myself that would be making fun of the stereotypical gringo superhero, okay, sort of the anti-hero, Deadpoolish type direction. And I grew up watching Chapulín Colorado and El Santo. So those are two of the most famous characters that in Mexican television history, and one completely slapstick and the other one a little more serious. So I try to combine a bit of the two, maybe a dash of Father Incredible, aging superhero. When I came up with this alter ego, I figured that I could buy Mexican television back in the day for, I looked into it for about the same price as I could buy 30 seconds on the news in English. So I figured I'll make this character and I'll produce my own TV show, Green Ghost and Mexican, sort of symbolic of, our two countries, since I'm on the border of Mexico, working together, that brotherhood there, under our Nana's watchful eye, the Mexican Mary Poppins, you could say. And so when I produced those shows, that got the sort of, in our marketing, we were the first to do Spanish marketing in the US. And that got the eye of the Wall Street Journal. And when we came out in the Wall Street Journal, then Hollywood called long story short. And that's when I went on the said, well, we've already made it this far. Let's see if we can't get to a movie. And I was only going to do a really small, humble production, to be honest with you, just to get it out of my system. And it started growing legs because we got Robert Rodriguez. When I met Robert Rodriguez's brother, okay, and I was always after Robert Rodriguez, of course, either on some sort of a advisory, position of some sort or involvement in some way, since he's so successful in Hollywood and focused in on the Latin market. And so when I met his brother, he said, hey, I can help get this done for you. And so he introduced me to Edward James Olmos' son. So you got two big names in Latino film, movie history, and TV and film, which then got the attention of guys like Danny Trejo, because they had ins with all these guys. And I actually started getting some real talent attached to it. I really wanted to develop the backstory a lot more. The show was pretty slapstick, and we went into a lot of, like you said, we were fortunate to have when we filmed the movie, we had companies, and I moved post-production down to Chile, and I was able to get some of those special effects that you were talking about that look so great. I was very fortunate because that would have cost me, like you said, in Hollywood, I couldn't have done it. So they were very hungry to prove themselves and make a name for themselves. So in the end, I was able to attract guys like Kuno Becker, who's big in Mexican film and TV. And then Danny Trejo, of course, huge. And working with him was intimidating since this was my first movie. I did, and then Andy Chang, if you noticed when you watched the film, Andy Chang was played by Chinese master in the movie. Well, he just did all the fight choreography for Shang-Chi. So, I mean, I was so lucky to get some of the people attached to this. You saw Bobby Lashley was in there, and Keen Velasquez.
Well, I was gonna say that explains why the action scenes are so good, because they're just so over the top and fun, and they just kind of escalate, as the film goes. We got a lot of questions and comments in the chat, if you don't mind me. Unless Alan, this is my colleague Alan Ing. I'm Chris Ford. Sometimes you don't see our exact names around here, but on the screen. But I don't know if Alan has any questions. But I got so much chat.
Yeah, I have one question. I mean, there's a lot of action here, and I assume that the more complicated action gets, the higher the budget gets. What was kind of the philosophy of, or how do you do indie action like this?
Well,
on your budget.
Well, that was an issue, and when I hired Marcos Aurora to play, the villain, and the Maya Apocalypse, he is actually my fight choreographer. And he called in Andy Chang as a favor. He said, because I was planning on using Leo Young, who was one of the fight choreographers on the movie Ip Man. And I went and trained with him for a month in England. And I trained from 10 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon, Wing Chun, Muay Thai, and Taekwondo. So I was planning on having him be my Chinese master. Well, we couldn't come to terms on the deal. And again, it was low budget. He was more of a high budget guy. So I was freaking out. And that's where Marcos Aurora called up Andy Chang. And Andy Chang says, does Charlie play golf? I said, yeah. But if he takes me to play golf, I'll be in his movie. It was so cool. He was such a nice guy. And then I couldn't afford wire work. And then he goes, oh, don't worry. I brought my own wires. I'll do my own. No, I won't charge you any extra. What? Wow. So lots of luck. I had lots of luck. Very generous people, and we were able. We did a whole month's worth of fight, sort of blocking each fight scene and really rehearsing. Said, Charlie, you don't want to get on set and have all this crew there and us fumbling around. We got to know exactly where the cameras are going to be. We got to already be so well rehearsed. Otherwise, you're going to burn cash like you can't believe. I said, okay, I'm in. But we really prepared. We really did. And we had some great stunt people. I tried to do as many of my fights as I could. And I had a great stunt double too. So. And
then when you had Bobby Lashley come in, was that like a one-day thing, or did you have to like move
so another luck, a hugely lucky thing happened. Chong, what's his name? he played the his last name's Chong. Anyway, he plays he's the Korean guy that's the bald guy that kicked me into the window. Arnold Chong. He's been in Hollywood for lots of years as a stuntman and a fighter, and he's a UFC trainer. He goes, "You want to have Bobby?" And I have access to Bobby Lashley and Cain Velasquez. Do you want him to be in your movie? I was like, "Hello, yeah." So he calls them up, and they said, "Sure."
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Well, you're getting
It's so easy. It's so easy.
yeah. I want to say you're getting a lot of love in the chat. We have questions from people watching. There's over 100 people watching you right now, so watching us live. So let's get to these. Shelby AC says Charlie looks like he completed all the PX90s. So Bethel Game says Danny Trejo. I'm sold. I love Danny Trejo. Dempsey says Danny Trejo was every Hispanic villain of my childhood. What a legend. Mm-hmm. And then Mob 19001 says love these stories from filmmakers. And then Derek Douglas asks, so is this a comedy movie, Charlie? I mean, there are aspects of comedy. There's comedy in it.
There's comedy in it. I believe me, it was actually set up to be a little more campy, and it didn't end up being that way. And I put some funny stuff in there that I thought would be funny for both audiences, the Gringo and Latino audiences, since I understand both cultures completely. So yeah, it has some fun stuff in there. I wanted to try to keep it as light as possible. We played it straight. We didn't go campy on it.
No, even with your suit.
Yeah, exactly. Because the suit's like a part of it's a part of your character, right? Like you feel this confidence with that suit on. That's when you can really fight. And so I love that aspect of it.
That's exactly right. That showed like I couldn't connect till I finally got the battle version from Master, from Danny Trejo.
But it's campy in the way that like remember the old '66 Batman Adam West TV show? Like all the characters in the show take everything happening very seriously.
Yes, exactly. And you look at it, oh my God, the sets are so ridiculous, and then they played it so great. Yes,
and that's what this film does as well. Let's see more comments and questions here. Shelby AC says, I love the 1960s Mexican Mil Mascaras Santo movies. They have such a fabulous style and fashion. Could you talk a little bit about the color and costuming for the Green Ghost?
Yeah, well, we really went into a lot of depth. I actually had to dumb down my costume, guys. I went real big on it, and the logo in the middle, it did not look, it looked too fancy, almost like Superman. I was like, guys, I had to cut it out and put one that was kind of crooked in there and try to dumb it down a little bit. And but yeah, we had a great costume design, and my costume had been developed. I had two versions, sort of the campy one at the beginning when I got into the ring, as I'm the luchador type, and then it turned into more of when it went to a real life Green Ghost scenario to connect me with my powers and give me more of a protective, barrier inside the costume that Master Jin made for me, and said, "Hey, look what Master Jin made for me." So we wanted the colors to pop. I really focused in on that. A lot of the costumes, Marco's Auroras looked a little sort of otherworldly, with his almost like Star Trek-ish. But yeah, we focused in on having the right colors in the background, right lighting, and the right camera equipment. We used the Red Dragon, but we had a $200,000 lens that we had to borrow or rent, and to make the film look big. As big as possible, because I didn't want it to go. The whole idea was, if you don't go as big as you can, you will never make it into the theater. That was my objective, and we came out in the theater, thank God, in Texas, in 150 theaters. So now we'll see what everybody thinks online.
We got a lot of questions. Hopefully we can get to all the questions, because I know we got to wrap up soon here. Real quick.
Yeah. I'll tell you.
Yeah, real quick. Satan West says, "Where can I see this movie? Is it in theaters? Can I stream it somewhere?"
Yes, you can stream it. It's going to be the streaming begins this coming week on June 28th. It'll be on and I'll give it to you to be able to post to all your
Sure.
your viewers.
Yeah.
As of right now, it'll be on Apple TV. It'll be on video on demand. It'll be on Amazon. So it'll have plenty of platforms, and we'll make it very clear to everybody. There's going to be a special. You can buy it for sort of a pre-order deal, and it's pretty darn inexpensive, and I think it'd be a pretty good deal for you if you want to watch it.
Well, look it up and pre-order, because just anything you can do to support indie filmmakers, I'm all about. A quick comment here. Derek Douglas says, does Charlie wrestle cattle in his spare time? Big guy.
Actually, from the time I was in the movie till now, I'm 20 pounds heavier and more muscle mass. I had to I was really actually skinny in person, really skinny for the movie. And I don't look that skinny in the movie, but the camera does add 10 pounds, and I got 10 pounds on top of that. But no, I do train a lot, and my lower back went out on me, so I was up to 260, and I came down to 230 just to take the pressure off, actually. And I've been a lot better, so I'm actually trying to lean off, take about 10 more pounds off of, and just be leaner and looser. So yeah.
Dempsey says, we have heard creatives talk about how martial arts help their lives in a big way. How much of a role did martial arts training play in your ability to make this film?
It actually, that's a very interesting question. My mentor, who passed away, unfortunately, of COVID a little over a year ago, he was a 10th degree black belt in judo and aikido. And I'm a black belt in judo myself and a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. I never practiced the striking arts before this movie, so I had to go in and try to learn, to try to look the best I could. But those disciplines that I actually learned from judo and gave me the confidence but throughout my life, whether it was being sent to military school to end up being in charge of the military school or whatever, in life, it gave me that sort of that confidence to overcome anything. And in judo, you're taking falls all the time. So in life, it's kind of like a metaphor of your real life. You constantly take falls, and you constantly get back up, shake it off, and take another fall. It's just, that's the way it is. And so, and you learn how to overcome very difficult circumstances that almost kill you. And I mean, when somebody's choking you out, you're facing death, and you realize, hey, calm down, don't panic. Because in real life, I've almost lost my businesses several times. I mean, this movie was, you want to talk about it was one of the toughest, everything that could go wrong did go wrong when I was making this film. I'm just telling you. And it was so difficult to actually do compared to what I thought in my mind. So I just had to keep taking my falls and taking my hits and keep working on the cut until we got it right. Until the special effects looked right, until everything, and finally we got the baby was born, but yeah, back to your original thing. I credit so much of my life to what I learned in the martial arts.
And we got final comment question here from Dempsey again. Do you prefer writing to acting, or would you ideally have a mix of the two if you could choose?
I consider myself like a great storyteller. I consider myself like I'm a very creative guy. What I didn't study and what bit me in the butt was really how to structure a script properly. I had another writer that did, but didn't have, it's kind of like there were some errors that I made because I didn't study. It's like I didn't classically go in and learn how to write. So if I have a writer, a ghostwriter by my side, no pun intended, a ghostwriter by my side, and I say, okay, here's all my ideas. Now structure this and come up with dialogue, and he'll say, what do you think about this? And oh yeah, that's good. And what if we say that? So I would rather have somebody be the actual do the writing, come up with concepts and ideas. It's interesting you brought up about the whole backstory, because that was something I actually added after we filmed the movie. The movie had a different backstory that I didn't like when I looked at the cut. So I had to come up with a whole new backstory and created that cartoon to put in the film.
Yeah, it works really well. I got to say, Charlie, thank you for joining us on the
Thank you so much.
Everyone, green goes to the Masters of the Stone. It will be available. It's available for pre-order now on video on demand.
Yes.
Make
Yes.
sure you check it
Go
out.
to greenghostmovie.com. Green Ghost Movie, not Gringo. Greenghostmovie.com.
And the trailer is in the description for this video. Check it out. Check out the trailer. There's the link in our chat. Thank you so much, Charlie. Thanks for
Thank you
joining
so
us.
much.
Thank you.
Congrats on the film. It's got, and the other thing is, this movie's got a lot of heart. I'm just going to let you know.
Thank you. It's
Movie's
got a lot
got
of my. It's got a lot of
Thank
my real life in there. I can tell you that much. And
there's more personal stuff. I don't want to
Yes.
ruin it, but like that ending, a lot of heart. So thank you,
you.
Charlie. Have a great rest of your day.
guys.
Thanks
Thank
so
you,
much.
everyone.
Take care. Thanks. Wow, what a great
I
tour.
know.
That the movie is awesome. It's just unexpectedly fun because I'm like,
Yeah.
look, can you make like an indie superhero movie? Could you do that? And well, turns out you actually can. You actually can. We're gonna get set up here for our next interview.
I will say there's
here.
a lot of good action. There's a lot of good action in Green Ghost, and more than you'd expect from an indie film. And Danny Trejo does more than just a cameo in this movie.
Yeah, Danny Trejo is not just a cameo. It's just like a quick scene. He is like a recurring character. He's sort of based on like, it's like a little Drunken Master, right?
Yes,
A little bit of
Yes,
Drunken
absolutely.
Master, a little Jackie Chan inspired. And if you really want to know a lot about Danny Trejo, I know I've recommended this movie before. It's called Inmate Number One, and it's about Danny Trejo's life. It's absolutely an incredible documentary. It won last year at Award This. So there you go.
I wonder if it's on Peacock. It's a Universal documentary, so it might be on Peacock.
It might be on Peacock. Look, maybe we can look it up. Look it up on Just Watch. We'll let everybody know. But yeah. So there you go. First of all, this is a weird milestone. 4 movies today that we reviewed that we recommend. That will probably not happen for the rest of this year. I cannot. Yeah, we're not going to have 4 movies opening in one weekend where we like them all. I think Elvis probably we had like the most quibbles, which you'll see. But I do think that, the performance and just, I feel like I've seen Elvis in concert. I never had that opportunity. It's too young. And so I don't know. It's like a great recreation. I'd almost like to just see a cut where it's just the performances. And,
he's really good. I mean, I assume he sang everything. It's almost undistinguishable at times.
Well, while we wait for our next guest, let's get to some chats. Here's some super chat from CD Stein 69 for $4.99. Love those horror movies that keep making you think about it for a while after you leave. That's really what the Black Phone does. Like, it's a movie that will haunt you after you've seen it. It's gonna haunt you. It really is. And I think that because it brought back so many personal memories for me, I think that's what made it so impactful and surprising. So I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think it was Patrick Lemire who said he has a 14-year-old. I don't know if a 14-year-old, even though that's the age of the kid in the movie, I don't know.
My daughter wants to see it, and now I'm rethinking it.
Yeah. Hey, some quick comments here. We'll just go through some chats. Womp Biscuit says, saw where Green Ghost has Pepe Serna in it. Always loved his work. Yeah, the movie, we didn't get into it so much, but there's a personal story that Charlie has a connection that pays off at the end. I really didn't want to talk about it too much because I feel like, I feel like, it would have kind of ruined a surprise, but yeah, you'll dig it. So yeah. So Danny is the new Sam. So hi, the drinker, says Bethel Games. Yeah. Cool. And we got Piers Bronson says, thanks, Charlie. Sounds awesome. And we've got our guest is going to be joining us in just a few minutes. We have, actually 2 guests. We have the director of Gatlopp, Alberto Belli, and the actor Jim Mahoney from Gatlopp. before they join us in just a few minutes, Alan, let's talk about Gatlopp.
Yeah.
Gatlopp is, would you describe it as kind of like a horror comedy? Maybe comedy with like a little aspect of horror. It's
Yeah,
about
you know,
Go
I
ahead.
kept thinking of I kept thinking of Zathura and Jumanji.
Right.
You know, that whole idea of getting into a game literally, and
Yeah,
so I'm not sure I would give it the horror, but definitely a fantasy thriller in a way.
well, let's say it's a board game that comes with real life consequences, and it's also a comedy featuring a great indie cast. And I'm excited to talk to the filmmakers when they join us here. But I guess you could describe it as a supernatural comedy. It's a supernatural comedy, but yeah, probably more comedy than. But it does have sort of like your the characters in playing this board game. It ends up that they realize that there's consequences after having starting to play it. And I like these movies that involve like a board. There's another one that was at South by Southwest years ago, and God, I interviewed the filmmakers and I'm forgetting. It was a horror that had a board game element to it. I mean, this is more on the comedy side. But there
I was
is
gonna say it wasn't Ouija Shark, was it?
It wasn't Ouija Shark. But I think there's a review on the Film Threat website. Maybe Alan, you can look up the review, unless you reviewed
Actually,
it.
I'm on my iPad, so
You can, okay.
Bobby reviewed it. He gave a 9 out of 10. He loved it.
Wow. Okay. 9 out of 10. And I'm going to assume it's available on video on demand at this stage. So,
yeah. I was going to say, people get shot and impaled in this movie. So, if that doesn't inspire the action, I don't know what will.
CD Stein 69 for $9.99. Any recommendations for streaming movies I can watch while I'm out of the sun, while I'm at the beach on vacation starting tomorrow, other than RRR, because I've seen it 3 times? First of all, thank you, CD Stein 69, for watching RRR 3 times. I watched it probably 6 times now, twice on Netflix, 4 in the theater. So there you go. But yeah, I mean, Gatlopp, I recommend that. I recommend Green Ghost. I would recommend that one. If there's a way to see, like, what else has come out streaming, Alan, recently that gives you a strong recommendation?
Well, the one that comes to mind real quick is Velocipaster is on Peacock right now.
Yeah. So, oh my God, Velocipaster. Velocipaster is a cheesy horror film that I would strongly recommend. You have to be with one of those movies. You kind of have to be in the mood for it. So there you go. But yeah, I would say, look, Solomon Thornton says our lists line up. Solomon Thornton says movies of the year: Northman, Top Gun Maverick, and RRR. And I would add The Black Phone to that list for me. And I would say Elvis with the performance. I would say Austin Butler's performance as Elvis is amazing. So there you go.
That and the music are clearly the most outstanding things about Elvis.
But it looks like our special guests have arrived. So let's bring them on screen. One of the stars of Gatlopp, actor Jim Mahoney, is here. Hey, Jim, thanks for joining us. I'm Chris Gore. This is Alan Ng. How's it going?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Okay, we're just talking about the movie. That it's I assume it's out now, available on demand.
Correct. Yes, correct. It is on iTunes, Amazon, Vudu, all those guys.
Fantastic. And also joining us is the director, Alberto Belli. Alberto, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us. Woo-hoo.
All right. Okay. Let's get right to it. I love board games, and I guess you could even say there's a board game movie genre, right? Like that now is a thing. I mean, you could do a marathon of board game movies, varying from comedies to action to horror. I assume obsession with board games inspired Gatlopp.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I definitely, the idea for me specifically, it's like social games, like kind of like party games, games that make you like, it's obviously like alcohol is a social catalyst. And so that's a good start. And then you add a game into it. And I think you always get to see a lot of new flavors of people, your family, friends, people you haven't met before. And everybody kind of opens up in a way and they're challenged in a way that's really fun. And sends the evening in a fun direction, an unexpected and fun direction.
And I think board games also, like, especially over the last couple of years, have become very popular. You know, small group of people get together. I mean, I have my own board game collection, and a lot of them get like incredibly elaborate. In the coming up with the story, did you actually go through like and you had to kind of create the game to be able to do that? You know, to be able to do that in the movie. Alberto, was that part of the thinking? Like, hey, we got to like actually make the game now. It has to have at least some sort of logic, even if we break that logic later.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we have to, you know, take inspiration for real games and make it our own. And then I had a lot of fun, you know, working with a team to design the game that looks real, right? Like that was very important for us to make sure that it felt that it has like some sort of past, but it would be cool to still play today. It was really fun to do that. Yeah.
So which games inspired this movie?
It was a combination of like, I love like things, Cranium, or a simple one being that game. Everyone has a different name for it, like Celebrity, where you all write names down in a thing and you put them in a bowl. There's like 3 different stages. There's a game called Quelf, which is a straight up party game. Also, I think visually we talked about Sorry being very much like a fun way of seeing it. And I was a big fan of Mousetrap as a kid. And I was like, that kind of feels like this a little bit, you know?
Oh, Chris, I think your mic's off.
I said, sorry, Mousetrap was a favorite when I was a kid and used to love making that Rube Goldberg thing. It's pretty awesome. So what went into the thinking behind like the consequences aspect? Because it's not just a simple consequence. A lot of the consequences, the things that the characters in the film are being confronted with, actually come from, let's say, unresolved conflicts in each character's life. So there's a bit more to it than just a punishment, right?
Right, absolutely. I wanted everything that happened to, I wanted 2 things to be happening with each punishment or sort of response, and it has to be character driven. It has to basically really attack what the characters are dealing with and what they're struggling with. But I also wanted it to have an element of like shock and awe, where it's like you really don't know. Like there's an arrow at one point in the movie, and I kind of wanted it to be you don't know why or where it comes from. It has to do with a reference earlier, but it's sort of out of nowhere. It's like you really don't know what will come at you is kind of what I wanted. I want that scorched earth feel when going through this story. But absolutely, I would have to then work backwards from the character issue. It's like, okay, the character has to deal with this. I have to work backwards from that. And then how do I structure the game's response to it versus the other way around?
We've got some comments here and questions. Let's go to those. Derek Douglas says, just watch the trailer. Looks real good. That's great. And then from Dempsey here is a question. I think this is for Alberto. What was the main differences working on Gatlopp versus the Orville?
It's probably for me.
Oh, sorry, Jim. I'm so sorry. I meant Jim.
Right.
I meant Jim.
It's
Yeah,
right.
okay. I assume there's maybe a budget difference, but what can you talk about, like Orville versus Gatlopp, and maybe indie versus working on a television series?
I mean, it's a little bit of night and day. I mean, it's like you're working on a universe when you're working on the Orville. I think they had 4 studio bays at Fox, and they built like you're working on the set of Star Trek. They built like actual spaceships that you're walking through, and it was insane. The costumes, the set design. I mean, there's thousands of people working on it. Now, Alberto and I had like we were in one house shooting with like 30 people for 2 weeks. And also, you shoot 2.5 pages a day working on the Orville, if that. We had a day where, what was it, Alberto? 15 pages, I think we had to do in a single day.
Yeah, 13. It was insane. Yeah.
So a little difference. There was a slight difference, but both are super fun.
Is there any difference, like with, because you hear actors, which thankfully have that luxury of doing like indie stuff versus things that have a higher budget? Is there a freedom sometimes with the indie stuff, with something like the Orville, which I love, by the way? I think it's the best Star Trek is the Orville. My opinion. We can argue that, but like, is there a difference, like where like you've got freedom with Gatlopp to go, well, let's just try this. We're gonna, what are your thoughts on like just sort of the creative environment?
I mean, for me personally, and then I'll give it to Alberto for his angle. Like for the Orville, because it's such a huge machine with so many moving parts, you can't necessarily pivot. I mean, Seth MacFarlane's also a crazy genius. So even in the moment when shooting, he'll be able to go, we can make these adjustments because he can see all the moving parts ahead of him. But I don't think many people can do that. I think he's one of the few that can do that, considering it's a massive, massive operation. Whereas for ours, it's small enough to where we do get issues. We have like either issues for constraints, budget, whatever, timing. We have to come up with a creative solve. And luckily, Alberto was able to handle that like on a whim, because we had seconds to come up with huge solves.
Yeah. I'm curious about your relationship between you and Alberto. This is your script. How did you guys work together and make sure that your vision was coming across, and Alberto, your thoughts about how to shoot the film, shoot the script as well?
I think we make a great team because like we help each other out from the beginning of the development of the movie. So we knew exactly what we wanted. So I don't think it was never like we just wanted to make it better. So we will usually rehearse very quickly, right, because of time, like every scene, and then we will like go through our thoughts how to make it better, change a little bit of dialogue, do some improvisation. But like I think it was always trying to make every scene better. And like it was a lot of fun to having someone there who makes sure that everything is tracking, and because sometimes you get lost of like, oh my god, we only have an hour to shoot this and we're screwed, right? So it's like it was very helpful to have someone also who is tracking the whole story, for sure.
Right, and there was a lot of trust on both sides. Like Alberto, I pitched the kind of the kernel of the idea to Alberto. He's like, I love it, and then he had all these smart ideas for the visual language of it. And we always talked about like 80s movies, 90s movies, Amblin, like these flavors that we wanted to hold on to, make that nostalgic feel. And Alberto's like, I think I have some ideas for that. And I was like, fantastic. I would go off and write pages, send him sloppy drafts, and then he would have like very smart, non-prescriptive notes. But he's like, this is great. Keep going in this direction. I wonder if we can hit this emotional feel here, or I'd love to hit a moment like this here. And I'd be like, I got it. And I would run off. And then same thing with him. He's like, what do you think about the look of the game? And he would show me mock-ups of the game. I was like, I'm losing my mind with how it was a shared language, but also like it was very much like he and I had a very similar feel for the overall story. But it was very much a trust. Like, you go deal with the visuals, you go deal with the direction, I'll go deal with the words on a piece of paper. And then it always seemed to come together well.
Quick question here from Flaccid Phoenix asks, what shot of the movie was the most difficult to shoot?
I'll give that to Alberto.
I mean, difficult. I mean, I thought kind of like, Jim mentioned like the hour scene. I think probably that was the most difficult day because we were shooting 13 pages a day. The makeup was not working. So like just getting this moment, like you'll see in the movie, like bloods come out and we just couldn't get that shot right. And it was one of those things that is like, it should be so simple, but like when you're in an indie and there's some money and or preparation or like to test it before or whatever, you're just dealing with the problems at the same time. So for me, that was the most difficult one. I don't know for Jim, what was yours?
I think it was equally the most difficult and the most fun was the I'll just say the 80s sequence and the jazzercise sequence, because it was very hard to get prepared to like do that. But then when we started, it was basically one of those things. Well, we're shooting it. Like, I don't know if this will work, and it was working every time, and we were like cracking the crew up. It ended up being like a super fun, stressful but fun and very, very satisfying day.
I would imagine it's hard to shoot something bad on purpose.
Yeah.
More comments and questions here from our audience watching live. Marissa Perez says, okay, been hearing people write characters before they write a plot. So that's interesting. I do think that's also like, I don't know if that's specifically an indie thing, but I think that's what indie films do really well is well-rounded characters. It's something that you don't have time for a lot of times in big Hollywood spectacle. So that's interesting. Is that a method that you use, Jim?
I mean, I think it's an unfortunate thing with those larger movies where I think sometimes they do focus on plot a little bit too much. It's kind of a chicken and egg scenario. I definitely feel that character is the most important, and obviously you find the character because then the journey matters. But also sometimes you think about like for this, genuinely the idea was like I have an idea. I have an idea of how to test people, and it's this game. I now need to come up with the people before I can come up with how I want them to go through it. And so there is an element of like, for this specifically, this was like, this is a game. I want them to go through a hellish game. Who are the people that would like basically be the worst prepared to deal with it? And then I start there and then kind of go on. But I mean, I feel like it's a dual sort of tracking. I don't think you can just create characters and then have a story, but it's hard. It's a chicken and egg scenario, but absolutely characters are the most important. And with small stuff like this, it has to be about characters because you don't have spectacle. You don't have the money or time or space to get the spectacle. So it's essential.
Gotcha. Another question here from Flaccid Phoenix. How much did the story change from the first time you saw like a cut of the movie to the finished film?
I'll get that to Alberto.
It didn't change much, to be honest. It's like what we shot, it was what's in the movie. We didn't cut any out scenes. We didn't change anything. It was literally what's on script. It ended up on the movie, yeah.
Very much, yeah.
Derek Douglas has a comment here, question. Would Ouija crossed with Jumanji be a good way to explain the movie?
I mean, like, there's a little flavor of a Ouija for sure, but I think it's more like, I kept saying if it's Jumanji was a drinking game, was just kind of how I put it.
Yeah, it's not a drinking game, but I guess you could turn it into that. Solomon Thornton asks, what other genres would you both want to do?
I love action adventure. That's I mean, I guess like you get a flavor here, and then I would love to keep doing that. I just did a Disney movie that is a big action adventure Christmas movie. So I would love to keep doing that. Yeah.
Oh, can you tell us what it is? Can you talk about it?
Not a lot of details, but it's called The Naughty Nine, and it's kind of like Ocean's 11 of naughty kids. So they have to break into Santa's village to be able to get the presents they didn't get for Christmas. So it's like building, and it was very, very exciting. But I would love to keep doing those kind of things. And a sequel of Gatlopp, why not? I'm going to throw it out there to the universe.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah. I'm all
Jim,
for
what about
that.
yourself?
I'm all for that.
Jim, what about yourself? Other genres you'd want to do?
I actually just did a rom-com, crazy enough, an R-rated rom-com that I wrote and actually got to direct last year, which was really fun. I think comedy is always going to be a thread in anything I do, but I love the idea of action adventure, and I really love the idea of I love the idea of playing in obviously horror comedy, and more horror comedy, but even like fantasy. Like I love the idea of getting into something that's like really grand in scope at some point, really testing my story chops on something big and epic.
Dempsey asks, what authors, screenwriters influence your style the most, or at least significantly?
I think Tony Gilroy is a big one. I think I love Lord and Miller. I think they're kind of mad geniuses. I love Zalian. I think he's also kind of a sick genius. And Diablo Cody. I like Diablo Cody's style a lot as well.
Yeah, no, her screenplays are just bizarre. Oh, I know, I love her stuff. Yeah. Another question here for both of you. What's your dream future project to work on from Flaccid Phoenix? Dream future project.
Oof.
I'm going to say something in the Star Wars universe.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
If I could do something that's like basically my version of Indiana Jones.
Sweet. And Dempsey has another question here. Do you have any personal favorite books, movies, TV shows, other than the Orville? But, any...
Alberto, you go first.
I haven't watched the new season. It's on Hulu, right?
Oh,
New season. Okay, well then I have to get caught up. I am not caught up. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah. But personal favorites.
So Jurassic Park, I saw it when I was a kid on the big screen, the original one,
Yeah.
obviously. And it had everything that I ever dreamed of, right? Like it's horror, but it's fun, it's adventure, and it's still my favorite movie to this day.
Wow.
That's good. I think right now I'm obsessed with The Boys. I think what they did with with this latest season is just, I love it so much. It's so crazy. It's so absurd. It's so fun. I love it. I also, I think the movie that kind of changed everything for me was Beetlejuice growing up, and books. I love a lot. I was reading Red Rising is a big one, but I think my favorite book I ever read was The Stand.
Wow. Well, I want to, first of all, just Gatlopp is out today on video on demand. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. It's out today, video on demand. I'm going to assume all platforms, right? It's going to be wherever you prefer to purchase your platforms. I'm a Vudu guy. I get everything on Vudu, movies anywhere, iTunes, all that. Congratulations, gentlemen, on Gatlopp. It's a load of fun, a supernatural comedy about a board game with consequences. Let's just say consequences. Leave it at that. But I know you've got a busy interview scheduled for today. I want to say thank you for joining us on the Film Threat Livecast. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you guys.
Awesome. All right. Have a great rest of your day. Take care. Thank you so much. Later. Awesome. Man, they were great. They were so great. Love it.
It's a fun movie too. I mean, I was going to ask about story, but there's a real relationship type story going on here, and that fits real well with the game they're playing. There's
more to it. I don't like to ruin that stuff. I like to go maybe to like whatever's in the trailer. I think is fair game.
Yeah.
If it's in the trailer, it's like, that's on you. A lot of trailers just tend to ruin things, but what can you say? What can you say? But I think that like just giving you a taste of what the story is, then you can kind of tell if it's something that you'd be into. So great. Well, we're going to wrap up with some chat questions here. And here I'm going to, what am I doing? I'm getting let me do a reset real quick. We'll get to your chat questions in a moment, because we've got big stuff coming up next week. Big stuff. Okay. I'm just going to leave it at that. I mean, just wait. Hear me out. There's big stuff that's going to be coming next week that I'm excited to share with you. So let's get into it. So next week on our Wednesday livecast, we're going to be catching up with a lot of indie movies, and we're going to need your help. I have purchased this gavel, which is a actual gavel with a. We are going to collectively create a list of the charges against Disney and Lucasfilm for the murder of the Star Wars franchise. So next week, we'll be catching up with some indie film reviews, some movies we didn't get to talk about today. There's a bunch of films that have come out that we didn't have a chance to discuss. So we're going to be talking about those indie movies, and then we're going to spend part of our conversation making a list of the murder charges. And then a week from today, Alan and I will both have seen Thor. We're going to give our early review a week from today. We're going to it'll be on our Friday live stream. We'll be talking Thor, Love and Thunder, which, if you've seen the social reactions already, it's a mixed bag. Even the praise seems a little like, oh, okay, interesting. But I'm told, and I don't know how true this is, we're going to find out soon. I'm told that we're going to figure out where the hell the Marvel Universe is going. And I feel like this has been the big problem with Phase 4 of Marvel right now. The huge problem is it seems to be meandering. You've got most of the movies have been low tier, or confusing, or going in directions that I don't think fans particularly like. So I want to know what the hell's going on. So we need to talk about it. Here's the mess that we're going to try and decipher here. This is the
So
mess.
are you saying we're gonna have another trial after the Lucasfilm trial? And,
This is
for
yes.
Marvel
Well,
Studios, et cetera?
yeah, we're going to discuss this Friday. So this is from Culture Crave. I just sort of Googled like Marvel Phase 4, Marvel, Marvel future movies. This is what's on the plate. These are all Marvel Disney Plus shows and or movies that are coming out. Are we excited for these? Shang-Chi Untitled Series, Untitled Shang-Chi Sequel, Nova,
Mhm.
Daredevil, Disney Plus Daredevil, not Netflix Daredevil. I mean, is that Daredevil?
I heard we could throw Jessica Jones up there soon.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but next Wednesday we're going to talk indie movies that you must see. We're going to have a whole bunch of them. I saw a movie recently called Poser that I thought was awesome. And you know what I have a special treat for Alan. I know that Alan got people in the chat saying things that I'm not sure that need to be said, but here's what I'll say. I made a little something for Alan upon his return. It's a little gift. This is just for Alan.
I love that. Even you blew it. The animation had you blowing out the candles too. I don't know if you saw that.
Exactly. But so just to let you know what we're going to be talking about next week, we're going to together collectively come up with what the charges are in preparation for our trial, and we're going to spin that off into its own show separate from what we're doing. And then we're going to talk about Thor Love and Thunder, and also this slate. I don't know how I feel about this. I'm looking at this going like, oh, this is what they're doing. And I'm looking at things that I could be excited about, like say Daredevil or Deadpool 3. And because I know who's making it, I'm not particularly excited.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I mean, X-Men 97.
Well, that's
just looking at that doesn't excite me.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Is it? Oh, okay. I see.
I don't know what your thoughts are. I don't know what your thoughts are, but we're going to be discussing this slate and Thor Love and Thunder on our live stream a week from today, because Alan and I will have seen it. Let's go to some of our chats here as we wrap up the show. Spider Geronimo says, I've read comics for 40 years, used to love the MCU. Now it's no better than CWDC. Goober says, Film Threat is on fire. Well, thank you for that. Derek Douglas says, can you get Donald Trump on the show? We could ask.
Yes. Yeah.
We could ask.
Yeah, he'll come. He'll totally come.
Yeah, okay. Patrick Lemire says, breaking continuity. I assume that's for one of the charges for Star Wars. I think a lot of things. I think not reuniting Han, Luke, and Leia, like not reuniting legacy characters in the sequels. That is a charge.
Mm-hmm.
That is a charge. When we lay out these charges, you're going to say, how is this current management still in charge of this thing?
I would say not having a plan. That would be one thing I would have.
That would be a charge. CD Stein 69 for $4.99. We need to have someone take on Tag and Bink in the Star Wars universe. I'd be willing to let them take that one. That would be great. I would love to hear thoughts on that. Just because, they are canon, but is that canon that they wiped away? Because it's comic books? I don't know. I'm not sure. But CD Stein 69, that would be great. Patrick Lemire, Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special could be fun. Goober says, just give me Fantastic Four and scrap the rest. Well, it's going to be Disney Fantastic Four. So there you go. And Placid Phoenix, our moderator, producer, posting clips of all these videos. Big shout out to Placid Phoenix, closing in on 2,000 subs. Give his channel a sub if you have not subscribed already. Go just look up Flaccid Phoenix, and we appreciate FP. Can I just say FP for short? Flaccid Phoenix is helping us. We could not blow up the channel without him. And there you go. And Diano says is here for $3 for a super sticker. Yes, thank you. We have super stickers available, and I want to let you know we are just about to launch, or will be launching soon, memberships. When we'll be launching these memberships, we're going to be doing private streams, private conversations. So if you are a filmmaker and you want feedback, or you just want to, and be a part of a deeper conversation, because I have to say this, I get like a lot of emails and messages from people that want to like have a conversation, and normally what I'm trying to do is just get through my email. So I'm very terse in my communication, and my apologies for people who've emailed me. I kind of look for like, well, what are you looking for? Do you want me to send you something? Do you want me to like help you? Like if you're a screenwriter, go to inktips, it's inktips.com, inktip or inktips.com. Just look up Inktip, and Inktips is a resource for aspiring screenwriters to connect their screenplays with producers looking for a type of movie. So if you're like, I want a horror movie set in a lake, and you've got your little summary, a producer can then connect with you and whatnot. It's a very, very useful resource for screenwriters. So I usually am like very terse in my communication, whether it's DM on social media or by email. So my apologies. What I want to do with our memberships is like, well, let's just actually have like conversations. And I used to do this panel at conventions. I would call it the Chair of Destiny. And I would have people come up on a panel, a filmmaker or a writer, a producer, and sit in this chair. I'd have a panel of experts, and the filmmaker would give their problems. And the problems usually are along the lines of, I'm looking for money. I'm looking for advice. I'm stuck on my screenplay. There are certain key parts where filmmakers kind of always get stuck, and the panel would then do everything to help solve that filmmaker's problem, whether it was just advice, giving contact information. Our memberships are going to be more than just one-on-one conversations. They're going to be like panel discussions. So I'm looking forward to that, but we're going to wrap that up today. And Flaccid Phoenix says, great show, guys. Now give us the only thing we are here for, nipple punishment. Yeah, we got to do that. Nipple punishment is here. And by your request, we're going to be making a 2-hour loop video of that video of Alan and posting it on the channel. And if
I wouldn't call it punishment, by the way.
I'm just saying we are going to, that's what we're going to do. So you can watch it anytime. You can throw it on a loop for your friends. You can have it playing. I did this once at a Christmas party. I had like this weird video, and it was from the end of Return of the Jedi, when Darth Vader is, the little funeral pyre and Darth Vader burning. Someone made, it was like a Darth Vader funeral pyre Christmas log. So it played Christmas music, but it was Darth Vader burning for hours and hours, and I just had that playing on the TV at a Christmas party that I had. It was very fun. So I want to say thank you to everyone in the chat. Thank you so much for your support. Come back to us next Wednesday, and we've got big things coming up, including our trial series, our very special trial series, which will be coming up. And I'm super excited for that. I want to say thank you to Flaccid Phoenix. I'm that Chris Gore on everything. We're Film Thread on everything. Alan, where can people find you?
My pal Al on everything, and except Film Thread Alan on Instagram, and also we have reviews galore up on filmthread.com. Be sure to visit there.
Yeah, definitely visit filmthread.com like every day. Just put it on one of your tabs and refresh.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'll see, like when you scroll through our front page, like all the new reviews that we're adding from our team of writers.
At least 5 to 6 reviews every day. Yeah,
exactly, 5 to 6 reviews, and with that, oh my jeans. Well, I clicked the wrong video. Alan, how do we end it?
let's get out of here.